What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Boxing Hour with Lamar West. Here to give you guys the recap on the Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez fight that took place on Saturday night, as well as the Keyshawn Davis versus Jermaine Ortiz fight. You can check that in my other video. But man, oh man, the Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez fight. All right, let's get started on this, man. Where do I start? I mean, it was a complete shutout. We're talking about at least 11-1 or 12-0, depending on how you scored it. You know, a lot of people may have given Teo the 8th round. If any round, it was that one. But this was a complete shutout, complete domination. It wasn't competitive. I can't even really say it was a good fight because it wasn't competitive at all. It was a high IQ boxing match, so it was good for boxing peers who love that part of the game of hit and don't get hit. But just in general, it was just not even competitive. It wasn't close at all. And I feel like there's a lot of different angles to take this from. Man, some things that Shakur did great. Shakur controlled the distance incredible, the same way he always does. He controls the distance. He dictates when he comes in. He dictates when the opponent is able to get to him. If he doesn't want the opponent to get to him, he knows exactly how to control the pace, control the distance, move out of hitting range, stuff like that. He knows how to also keep his guard up, so his defense was impeccable. So all of it, like his distance control was amazing, his defense was impeccable, and he also did a great job at landing that jab. He landed that straight left jab so consistently throughout the entirety of the night, and Teo never got out of the way of it. He never moved his head. He never slipped the punches. He never was able to get out of distance or out of range for Shakur to not land a punch. Like Teofimo was so focused and worried about trying to cut off the distance and trying to get to Shakur that every time he would try, Shakur would either step out of range or literally hit him with the jab and stop him in his tracks, right? And I think that, you know, Shakur has struggled with like his power or his hands and stuff like that, hands being brittle and having surgery on his hands. But it seems like he's fully recovered because if his punches didn't have any pop behind them, then I think Teo would have kept coming forward. But Teo didn't. Teo felt the jab and he stopped in his tracks. And Teo's face was all busted up and stuff like that. Which, I mean, Teo could just be an easily scarred guy. But at the same time, Shakur landed his jab at. Well, he didn't land a lot of like hard, big shots or like a lot of hard right hand punches or hooks or uppercuts or anything like that. But that jab was consistent and accurate and on point all night long. Like, he didn't miss many shots, you know what I mean? So I just think his jab was great. His defense was great, as well as his control and range of distance was amazing, right? And Teo just could not figure out the puzzle. He couldn't figure out the distance, and he couldn't figure out how to get past the jab and the defense. So Shakur capitalized off all of Teo's mistakes because, you know, to get into some of Teo's mistakes, man, it's so many mistakes he made. One, he didn't look prepared. It didn't seem like him and his team had been studying Shakur on film or studying Shakur on tape to really know, okay, this is our strategy, this is our game plan. He looked unprepared. He looked like he was just making stuff up in the ring as he went on the fight. Like, it didn't seem like Teo went in there like, hey, this is my game plan, this is my strategy, this is what I'm gonna stick to. If this isn't working, then we'll pivot to something else. It looks like he was just in there literally just freestyling, just trying stuff out, doing whatever he could to try to figure it out. So it looked like he wasn't properly prepared, to be honest. And even just his energy, like, you know, Teo, we saw him the night before doing backflips on stage. We saw him in the back in the locker room before the fight doing wild stuff, shaking his head, moving his tongue around. Excuse me, guys. And it just didn't make sense. And then even on the walkout, you see him, you know, dancing with the Jabberwockies, all of that stuff. So it's like he gave so much energy to like outside of the ring antics that I feel as though he just didn't capitalize off of like pushing all that energy just into the fight, pushing all that energy into the preparation. I feel like he wanted to play mind games leading up and do all this other stuff when he should have been studying film, preparing a game plan of how can I get through to Shakur Stevenson instead of just trying to make it up as the fight went on, right? So he didn't seem prepared. Inside of the ring, you know, and this is the interesting thing about this battle is because we've criticized, most people picked Shakur to win, right? And a lot of the reason was because everybody kept saying that Teo struggles with southpaws, he struggles with boxers, and Teo, he struggles with consistency. And literally all of those errors showed up last night, or showed up on Saturday night. Like, he was inconsistent throughout the entirety of the fight. He didn't know how he wanted to fight. He was too indecisive and too inconsistent throughout his decision making on what he wanted to do. He struggles with boxers because he doesn't really know how to cut off the distance and get to guys, right? And that showed times 10 versus Shakur, because Shakur is the master of keeping his range. And Teo didn't know what to do. Like, every time he wanted to land a punch, he tried to just jump inside, jump in and throw a punch, jump and throw a punch at the same time. When you're jumping and throwing a punch at the same time, it's taking pop off your punches. Even if you jump in and then you throw, you're telepathing your movement. So Shakur, a good defensive fighter, can already predict what you're about to throw and block it or move out the way. So he didn't know how to cut off the distance. He didn't try to take any new creative angles. He didn't, try to duck, sweep up under, hit from a different angle, something like a Lomachenko used to do. That's what made Lomachenko so dangerous, is because Lomachenko would fight from different angles, right? And his footwork was impeccable. So he didn't fight from different angles. He didn't really pick his feet up that much. He just tried to lunge in and throw a punch, and that was easy to defend, and it was predictable. So he didn't know how to cut off the distance. He didn't really have any creativity with his punches. Even with cutting off the distance, if he would have tried to do even the classic just double jabs to get there, he didn't even do that. It was just, I'm trying to lunge in and hit a shot. That was it. And then even in regards to this creativity with his punches, he didn't throw any punches not from foot movement angles, but just his angles, like a flurry of, a jab, a left hook, a right uppercut, a right hook, a punch to the body, punch to the head. It was just all just punching at Shakur's head. And that was it. And that was the easiest things for Shakur to defend. The times that he did land a few punches was all body shots. When Teo did land shots, they were body shots. But he didn't stick to that. So if you had a game plan and say, oh, this is working, I'm going to keep doing this. Or your corner says, hey, the body shots are working, keep doing that. But he was just making stuff up as he went. So it fell flat. And also, man, his corner was terrible. His corner was terrible. When you're listening and you're hearing his corner just say stuff like, where's the power? Or just hit him. It's like, okay, tell him how to hit him. Tell him something that he's maybe not seeing in the ring, or give him some guidance on how to land a shot. You know what I mean? Or how to land a body shot, or how to cut off the distance. You're just telling him to go do it. So the corner was terrible. It looked like he had no preparation. Inside the ring, he was inconsistent, indecisive. He didn't stick to one game plan, as well as, he didn't want to get hit. And it's sometimes that you have to make the decision, like, no, I'm just going to take for me to land my shots, I have to take some shots. So I'm going to make that sacrifice because I want to win this fight. As we saw with the Jermaine Ortiz versus Keyshawn Davis fight prior, there were 2 or 3 rounds where Jermaine Ortiz just stood in the pocket with him, was like, no, I'm going to take these shots. I'm trying to land my own shots. Sometimes you have to do that, right? Even with Canelo and Crawford, when Canelo was struggling to land on Crawford, we saw moments where Canelo was just like, I'm going to stand right here in the pocket and we're going to bang it out, right? Sometimes you have to do that, but Teo didn't want to do that, right? So I just think that Teo, he looked bad all night, and it was a terrible performance on his behalf. But, this is the dilemma for me now. Not the dilemma, because Shakur has solidified himself to me as a top 5, top 6 pound for pound guy. I would definitely go anyway, in no order, but just anyway, Crawford, Usyk are going to be the top 3 in no order. And then I'm going to go either Shakur at 4 or Bivol at 4, right? Bivol at 4 or 5. So if you go Shakur at 4, Bivol at 5, or Bivol at 4, Shakur at 5, however it goes, whatever the case may be, I think he probably does round out that top 5, because he beat Teo, who has a good resume, and he beat Teo in such a dominant fashion that you have to respect it, right? So I think Shakur solidified himself as a top pound for pound fighter in the world now. But my only caveat is that, and this is why I gave people a pushback on just picking Shakur 100%. I picked Shakur to win, but I gave it like a certain percentage. I can't recall the number, but I thought it may be competitive. But everybody's saying that it wasn't going to be close or competitive. I feel like that kind of diminishes the win a little bit for me, the value of the win, because it's like, man, okay, if you guys all picked Shakur to win, you all thought that Shakur was going to dominate him. All of you guys thought that Teo didn't have enough. All of you guys thought, Teo is inconsistent. He doesn't have game plans. He struggles with boxers and southpaws, all these things. So if it was, okay, Teo has all these struggles, and all of these same exact struggles that people point out showed up in the fight versus Shakur, then it's like, okay, was it Shakur's dominance, Or was it that all of the issues and flaws that Teo has were on display? It could be a combination of both. I take it as a combination of both, which made it look like a terrible fight, but for Teo. But it does lessen the value of the fight a little bit for me when everybody has picked one guy and everybody is saying exactly how the fight is going to go, and it goes exactly that way. Because it's like, oh, okay, well, we all knew that Teo was inconsistent. We all knew he was indecisive. We all knew he can't cut off distance. We all knew he doesn't have a strong corner. So it's like if you knew these things, then you already were essentially saying Teo was outmatched from the beginning. So it's like, man, how can I rate that fight then, right? I have to take it down a little bit in value, as opposed to if Shakur went and fought a guy where it was like everybody thought it was going to be a 50-50 fight, or people didn't know who was going to win the fight, or if Shakur was the underdog. But you know, when you go and you dominate a guy that everybody's already picking you to dominate, even if Teo is a great fighter, it kind of makes it like, I don't know, right? So, but I think that this adds to Shakur's legacy. You know, I think that Teo was an A-level fighter, even though he has all his flaws. I think that Shakur now has a win versus an A-level fighter. You know, he has the Valdez and Herrings and Zepedas, like the B-level fighters, but now he has that statement win over an A-level fighter of his generation as well. So I think that he's starting to solidify himself, you know, as one of the best of his generation. He already is, but now he's really trying to take the crown. He's trying to run away with the crown. And, you know, he has more time. He has more time. He has more stuff that he can do to solidify that. There's more guys that he can fight, you know, in regards to who he should take on next. I would love to see him and Keyshawn, but they're saying they won't fight. I do think at some point they will fight. Obviously, the Tank fight is the biggest one. That's a Super Bowl fight for both of those guys. And I have that as a 50-50 fight. And I actually favor Tank a little bit. The only reason I wouldn't favor Tank is because Tank, he takes off so many rounds that you can't afford to just allow Shakur to build up a lead. But if Tank was to have his foot on the gas the entirety of the fight, I think that Tank could figure it out, some way to land a punch. I think that Tank is quick enough and cuts off distance well enough. But that's a 50-50 fight. But I think that is like the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight of this generation, for these two guys at least, right? So I would love to see him fight Tank whenever Tank comes back, if he ever comes back. You know, Keyshawn maybe, but they say they won't fight. Devin Haney. I think the Devin Haney fight, honestly, I just think it would be a boring fight. I think that it would be a high IQ boxing match. And I do think that Haney could give Shakur trouble because Haney is athletic. Haney has quick feet. He's good at getting out of the way of punches and getting out of range. And Haney has a little pop on his punches too. Haney isn't no fraud in terms, like, we've seen him drop Prograis. We saw him drop Brian Norman, guys that were bigger than him, right? So I think that Haney is kind of like a good matchup. I don't really know who I would pick to win, probably Shakur, but I do think that Haney could give him trouble. So I do think that Haney and Shakur will be a good match to make. I just think that it wouldn't be an exciting fight, but it would be a good match to actually make happen. So I think those two fight. I think the Tank fight, the Haney fight. I think, as well as, you know, I know he talked about fighting Conor Benn. I think that Conor Benn doesn't have that boxing IQ or acumen to beat a Shakur, but I do think that Conor Benn is reckless enough to not care about Shakur's punches. And I think that is something that you may need to defeat Shakur. To defeat Shakur, you either have to have the movement of like a Lomachenko, or just the negligence of getting punched back like Conor Benn does. That's why Zepeda had a little bit of success and he won 2 or 3 rounds, because Zepeda he didn't care about getting hit back. He was throwing punches at volume. That was the way that Zepeda cut off the distance versus Shakur, was by double jab, volume of punches going in, because it makes you have to figure something out. You either have to put your guard up, duck, or take a step out of range, but you can't do all 3 at once. So you have to give Shakur stuff like that to think about, not just I'm going to jump in and you're going to do that each and every time. So Zepeda gave him a little bit of trouble. So I think that somebody like a Conor Benn, who he doesn't really care about getting hit back, Conor Benn probably doesn't respect Shakur's power. I think that he can give Shakur trouble in spots. There'll be moments throughout the fight that I think Conor Benn will give Shakur a tough time. I think ultimately Shakur will figure it out and win, but I do think Conor Benn could win a couple rounds for sure and give some spots where he puts Shakur in danger. So I do think that would be a fight worth watching. So I think Conor Benn, Devin Haney, Tank, if he ever comes back, these are some good fights. And And then in regard to T.O., yeah, I just think T.O., he has a lot of work to do. You know, if you put T.O. in there with a Robert Garcia, a great trainer, I think it'll do numbers for him. But I think that a guy like T.O., I don't know where he goes next. I know he's not done by any means. He said he want to go up to 147. I don't know about that. I don't know who at 147. I mean, even like a Brian Norman, I don't even know if he can necessarily beat a Brian Norman just because Brian Norman has power, right? So I don't know where T.O. goes next, but we'll see what T.O. does next. I wouldn't be surprised if T.O. was like, I'm going to go to Zuffa for a fight or something like that. So we'll see. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, man, it was a good match. It was a complete blowout. It wasn't competitive, but I'm still glad that we were able to see such a significant and important fight for this time, this generation, and I hope that it continues. But till next time, this is Lamar West with the Boxing Hour. Catch you guys soon.